for years now, we have watched a whole new axis of resistance emerge, right? When the United States really started putting pressure on Russia under the Biden administration in the Ukraine conflict, that was sending messages all over the world that this is what the United States will do to you. If we disagree with you, we'll seize your assets.
Yeah.
We'll hold your money. We'll slap sanctions on you. We'll force Europe to slap sanctions on you.
Now we're double sanctioning Russia, right?
Yeah, we're talking it again. Let's really.
So we're going to sanction the people that do business with them now.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of, like, the message is loud and clear that if the United States doesn't like you, then it's going to punish you, even if you're not fighting the United States. If you're just doing something the United States doesn't like, they're going to punish you.
Yeah.
So that forced China to pull assets out of U.S. dollars and assets out of U.S. control. Russia and China start doing business together. Iran and Russia start doing business together. India, who is an ally of the United States, quote unquote,
and
nuclear, starts doing business with China and Russia because it's pragmatic. You've got cheap oil that's way cheaper than buying it from somewhere else. It's much closer. All you have to do is pay in rubles. And then the ruble went up. So you can see how bass backwards it is. That yes, there are weapons off the coast of the United States at any given time. Yes, that's scary. Yes, that's creepy. That doesn't mean that that's the most practical way to attack the United States. I think what our enemies have discovered is that if you leave the United States alone, we attack ourselves. I remember when I was going through CIA training, we went through this simulation where we went to a training course, and in the training course, they were showing us how different the actual threats were against the United States than the threats against other countries. So they shared with us this case study that was identified by a group think or a think tank in the United States. And in the think tank posited that if they were Russia, or if they were a terrorist group, how would the terrorist group affect the largest damage on the United States? Would it be by launching coordinated terrorist attacks inside the United States or some other way? So this think tank came up with a strategy to launch multiple coordinated terrorist attacks against civilian centers in Mexico to basically attack Mexico, where the police are less organized, where the military is less efficient, where borders are less controlled, and then make sure Mexico understood they were being targeted because of their proximity to the United States, with the whole goal being to cause mass migration to the United States, to the southern border of the United States.
Oh, wow.
Because the think tank was like, the United States is prepared to fight terrorists, but it's not prepared for hundreds of thousands of immigrants to flood from the South because they're trying to find home. And our immigration policy is such that if they're trying to seek asylum or escape from violence, they have a right to come to the United States. So essentially, by forcing this issue from the South, it would distract American policymakers. It would cost the economy a fortune. It would put the border in disarray. And through that border, the same terrorists that were attacking Mexico would be able to infiltrate the United States and carry out continued attacks in the United States in the same areas where the immigrants were, which would then cause additional chaos to the United States. So it's the best way to attack the United States is not through a rocket or a missile or a tank. It's to attack it from within. It's to attack it in a way where where we as the American people freeze, or where our politicians start to run into some kind of consternation that puts them at odds with each other or odds with us. And then we'll just destroy ourselves from within. We're talking about the national debt.
Right.
We're destroying ourselves from within. All China has to do is sit there and eat popcorn.
It's crazy. It's crazy how right you are. All this unconventional, slow burn strategic stuff that just takes forever when we're just there. Like you said, the first podcast that we ever did is they're looking 50 years in the future. We're only looking 3 months in the future.
It's true.
It's insane.
What are we going to do for Christmas?
Yeah, exactly. I haven't even thought that far. Yeah. What do you think about all of this ICE stuff? All of this crazy, showing up at Home Depots and arresting all these like workers. And I have a friend who owns a commercial concrete company. He installs all of the wastewater treatment plants all around Florida. And his crew, he's got like 350 employees. and they are 99% Mexican. And the top ones are, maybe I shouldn't have said this. They're undocumented. And basically what they've done now, because one of them got arrested, and look, these guys aren't gang members. These guys aren't rapists. These guys are, their biggest gripe is they can't work on Sunday sometimes. Like they want to work 8 days a week, right? That's all they care about doing. And one of the guys got busted, and one of the guys is in like the holding facility. So I guess you can elect whether to be deported immediately or you can stay and like try to fight it or whatever. Anyways, this guy's like 23 years old. He just had a kid, and now his wife is living alone with the kid, and like his coworkers are pitching in to help like pay for her or whatever. And now what he's doing is he's getting his top workers. He's hiring them personal drivers. So if they get pulled over, they can't ask for their ID and they can't arrest them and deport them. So it's like, you know, my practical view of it is like, can't you at least, if you're a company that is hiring these people, can't you make the person who runs the company like responsible for these guys, or try to make it to where like if you have all these illegals working for you and they're supporting your business, your multi-million-dollar construction business, figure out a way to make those guys pay tax on these guys, or find out like a quick way to citizenship for those people.
So I appreciate where you're coming from. I have a different point of view. I think that we have to be looking at how you do this practically. And I think this really highlights that our immigration policies are not practical. The argument that an illegal immigrant, an undocumented immigrant who isn't a rapist or a criminal is somehow okay is a false argument. If they're here illegally,
you got to figure out for them to pay a way for them to pay taxes.
No, they're illegal. They're not documented.
Okay.
They shouldn't be here. That is against the law.
But if I'm an American and I have a huge successful corporation like Walmart,
congratulations, you worked your ass off to get it.
And I need these illegals.
You don't need them.
If I want to profit on all the shit I'm selling, I need to have them. If my business is going to remain profitable, or else I'm going to have to jack the prices up.
Then do that. Like the argument here has nothing to do with business owners. That's a false argument. It has everything to do with the decisions of the individual who came here illegally. Right? If you came here illegally, if you broke a law to come here, get the fuck out. You don't belong here. We have a process for you to come in legally. If you don't have patience for that process, if you don't like that process, if you don't have skills that make you valuable to the United States, that's your fucking fault. That's not our fault. So if you are turned down, get out. If you never tried to get in because you snuck in, get out. That's simple. That's clear. There's no differentiating between rapists and criminals and just general illegals. Illegal is illegal. CIA believes that all people are born with a spy secret superpower. For some people, that means they can win deals. For others, they can spot liars. Some can even seduce lovers. I built a free 3-minute test to help reveal to you exactly what your secret hidden superpower is. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, take the test, and start using your spy superpower to stay ahead of 99% of people. The flip side to that, though, is if there's a need for that unskilled person, we need to make it easier for the unskilled person to get in legally.
These people are skilled, though. That's the point. They're skilled by trade. In America aren't incentivized to do this kind of work anymore.
That's not my problem. My problem is not our problem that Americans are not incentivized to do the job.
No.
Arguably, if you got 10 skilled Mexicans out, there would actually be a salary that could support the one skilled American that might incentivize them to do the job. But here's the thing. I've lived in California. I've driven by the strawberry fields, and I know there are shit tons of unemployed Californians who on principle aren't going to go pick strawberries. Right. They'd rather apply for welfare, and they're going to get their welfare and whatever else. Yeah. I've been there. I've seen it. If we want strawberries, we need Mexicans to come in and pick the strawberries. So what we need to do is make it legal for them to come in and have that job. We can't have it both ways. We can't have it where we keep them out, but we need them, and we hunt them down to get them out. Because all that's going to do is create a loss for us.
Right.
We need to fix our immigration policy.
Yeah.
But we're not going to get there by saying, oh, we should just let the illegal immigrants come in who don't break the law. They already broke the law. That's what makes them illegal. Right? It's stupid to only think that there's a difference between criminals who are violent and criminals who are not.
Do you remember there was a legislation on immigration that was about to be passed right before 9/11?
I don't
and
remember.
9/11 shut it down. Can you find out what that was, Steve? There was where did I hear that? I heard this somewhere recently, and I was actually just talking to Julian about it. It was like one of the most reasonable immigration policies that I've ever heard. It made so much sense. That was proposed and it was about to pass literally like right before 9/11, 2001.
Because but to your point, that's what frustrates me. We need a reasonable immigration policy.
Yeah.
We were a country built on immigrants because people came to our country, people immigrated here who had skills or who didn't have skills but did the jobs that nobody else would do. We need both people. We need to have a policy that covers both types of people. Instead, we just ignore the second type.
Is this it? The DREAM Act?
Yeah, there's 3 of them. DREAM Act is one of them.
The DREAM Act was proposed legislation introduced in 2001 aiming to provide a path to citizenship for undocumented youth who came to the United States as children and meet certain criteria such as graduating from a U.S. high school. No, that doesn't sound like it.
The worker amnesty.
The bill sought to provide legal permanent resident status to certain undocumented and non-immigrant aliens, including alien workers, those eligible for admission to U.S. institutions for higher education or 65 years of old.
So that sounds reasonable.
The other one was the Refugee Protection Act. The bill proposed changes to the procedures and handling of asylum seekers, including exempting certain individuals from expedited removal.
That's not really it.
No.
So, I mean, what we're getting at here is I do think that the owner of a company who has undocumented employees that he or she finds out about should have a path to say, hey, I want to sponsor these people.
Yeah.
Like, especially
yes.
many of the illegals are already paying taxes. So it's not like they're dodging taxes. That's not their crime.
Right.
Their crime is illegally crossing the border and not registering their presence.
So this, I remember it now. I don't know if you can find it this way, Steve, but basically what it was it was going to say that illegals who are working in the country and they don't have legal citizenship, they would provide them a pathway to citizenship, like a very easy pathway, quick. But they would only be allowed, they would have to go back to Mexico or their home country for like X amount of time during the year, like 4 or 5 months out of the year. And they could come here and work during like 6 or 7 months of the year. There was something else to it, but
there's solutions.
But
That's what kills me. There
are solutions, yeah.
And the whole immigration debate is a silly debate because the truth is we need immigrants. We need skilled and unskilled foreign laborers.
Yeah.
And part of the reason we need it is because of the stupid ass Americans who are trying to hold out for a management position or who never bothered to get a skill or who are living off of the tit of the government, whether it's state or federal. We got a bunch of lazy fucking Americans that won't work. We still need someone to do the work. So how do we reward?
And the immigrants are the ones that have more kids as well. Like white people aren't having kids anymore.
I mean, I don't know one way or the other, but I do know that foreign workers are a value add, but we can't reward illegal border crossing because all that does is incentivize more illegal border crossing.
Of course.
So what about the ICE thing? I was in LA last week on multiple shows in LA last week. And it broke my heart to walk down streets in Koreatown, walk down, Sunset Boulevard, walk down, walk through various areas of LA and see signs in Spanish on light posts with numbers to call if there's an ICE raid, warning people to be ready at any time to leave to go to a new location. Like they're actually communicating and preempting the ICE raid so that if your neighbor's house gets raided, you call a number and it activates all the illegals in the area to get them to grab their go bag, get out of their house and go to another safe haven where there's no ICE raid.
Wow.
Like that's bullshit. And that's what we're doing. We're now making it harder for ICE to do its job. We're incentivizing the response of illegal immigrants to stay here illegally. We need to understand
who was putting those signs up.
That must be other illegals.
Yeah.
unless it's some kind of, and it's California, so who knows? It could be some kind of nonprofit organization that's organizing the whole thing based on American dollars. California is a wild place to be.
Yeah. So, okay. Going back to the Russia stuff, what do you think ends up happening with the Russia-Ukraine thing? Like, do you think everyone's like, a lot of people say it's just going to end up being like a stalemate. Nothing's going to happen. And it's just going to keep being like a slow burn of nothing. But then some people are also saying that it's going to have to be because Ukraine is losing so badly, and they've it doesn't seem like when Putin went in there, when we've talked about this before, that he wanted to take all of Ukraine and rebuild the Soviet Union. It seemed like just based on the evidence that like right before he invaded, he proposed a treaty that we wanted nothing to do with. And, you know, that's always been his red line, his number one red line. It hasn't been any of the other NATO countries. It's always been Ukraine, yet we just ignored it and we kept trying to go into Ukraine. And he even wrote that essay or whatever that was like a year or like 6 months before he invaded, basically like laying out the sentiment of like I don't think he said he wanted to rebuild the Soviet Union, but he thought it was like a disgrace that the Soviet Union fell, and he like laid all this stuff out. I don't think there's any hard evidence that he actually wanted to take over Ukraine. I think he just wanted to maintain the Crimea area and the Donbass region, which according to the Russia proponents, they say that the people in Donbass, they are ethnic Russian and they want to remain ethnic Russian. They don't want to, and I don't know. You can't know. That's a problem. You can't know unless you're like there talking, interviewing the people, and no one does that. And I just had a war journalist on here last 2 weeks ago who was on the ground during both the Chechenian wars, and what was his name? Scott Anderson. And one of the things that he was saying about the Ukraine war is that any reporters who want to go into Ukraine and like actually like talk to people and interview people, it's like super sanctioned. Like you have to like literally be with this group of people who like take you to places. You're not allowed to just be like a rogue journalist. So I think it's really hard to cut through the noise of what's going on.
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, my assessment on Russia hasn't really changed since 2022.
Right.
There have been shifts in who has battlefield advantage. And every time those shifts happen, you hear these inflated promises or these inflated ideas, right? Like you just said just a few minutes ago, now that Ukraine's losing so badly. Ukraine's not losing so badly. They are losing ground, but not much. They're losing very little ground. Like it's not like Russia's gaining 1% of Ukraine per day or anything like that. It's largely been the same lines of battle, just a few hundred kilometers back and forth for the last 2 years. Putin understands he has the advantage. He's had the advantage since the beginning. Even through, and as we've layered on sanctions, and as we've given Ukraine weapons, and as we've fed them intelligence, the fact that Russia continues to persist without losing significant ground, they only lost ground in the counteroffensive that nobody foresaw coming the very first summer. That's the only time that they've lost significant ground.
Yep.
And there's lots of battlefield reasons why that happened.
And I think a big general came out publicly and said, like, this is where we need to go to the negotiating table now because we have Russia on their heels right now. This is the perfect time.
Right.
And Biden's administration said, F off.
Right. And I think both the U.S. and Russia understand that as long as Ukraine continues to be in the middle of it all, they both have something to gain. Russia knows that it needs insulation from NATO. Russia also knows it wants to control eastern Ukraine because eastern Ukraine is where the primary infrastructure for oil export to Europe lives. All of Russian oil leaves Russia to enter eastern Ukraine to then get distributed to Europe. It's like having a farm and you collect all of your grain and store it in your neighbor's house.
Right.
Well, who controls that grain? You or your neighbor? So Russia's just like, fuck that. We're going to now control everything about our oil. That's number one for us. Plus the fact that there's rare earth minerals, plus the fact that there's cultural interests. There's all sorts of reasons why they want eastern Ukraine. They want it a whole hell of a lot more than the United States wants Ukraine to have its original territory back. If anything, what the United States benefits from is Ukraine continuing to distract Russia, continuing to weaken Russia, and the benefits that we have of financially being able to rebuild Ukraine when the whole thing ends.
Yeah.
That's what Donald Trump's looking at. He's like, I want this thing to end in a way where we get to go in and claim Ukrainian ground, claim Ukrainian resources, indebt Ukraine to rebuilding their country so that we can build another Germany, another France, another Poland, another UK, another Japan. Because you're war torn, you're going to need us.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're really looking for. But Trump wants to keep his territory more than he wants to keep the war going more than he wants to let it go. Because how is Russian economy going to bounce back if they shut down the war?
Right. And I think Lindsey Graham said the quiet part out loud a couple months ago where he's like, there's trillions of dollars in natural resources and minerals in the Ukraine that we can't let China get a hold of.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, everybody's interested in Ukraine for something other than protecting democracy
or the people that are there.
So it was such a blatant
and it seems
heartless lie to the American people that that's what we were doing.
It seems so crazy that people can't see, like, we wouldn't let Mexico become an allied partner of China or Russia or be in their like defensive umbrella.
Yep.
We would never let that happen.
Never.
Or Canada.
So it's not that hard to believe. So again, the thing that Putin does really well is he knows how to string Donald Trump along. Donald Trump is a business person who knows how to twist the American system legally, marketing wise, business wise. He's very effective at making profit out of thin air. Vladimir Putin is a trained KGB operative. He understands human beings. He understands international affairs. He understands geopolitics. He knows that he just has to give Trump a small victory so that Trump can claim a big victory. And then he's free to go back and renege on his victory. And then Trump's going to complain and Trump's going to have a way out. Remember when Trump was like, we're going to end this in a day.
Yeah.
He came after it didn't end in a day. He eventually was just like, you know what? Ukraine and Russia aren't taking it seriously. So I'm done here. He basically said, it's not my fault. They're children. That was him giving himself permission and giving all of us vocabulary to not blame Donald Trump for why Ukraine and Russia didn't end in one day. And Putin knew that. And Putin was like, we're going to give Trump an out. We're going to give Trump an out so that it's not his fault he didn't meet his campaign promise. And it worked. And now we're back to it again because he's hunting for a victory. He needs victories because he's having so many failures. He's having so many areas where he's not succeeding. He needs small areas to succeed. He knows he pissed off people when he went into Iran. So now he needs people to forget about that and think about something else. He knows that the economy is in a shit place and that the big beautiful bill isn't going to fix it right away. So he needs to distract people with something else.
Yeah.